Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're back in the basement bait shop. We are going to do a build to catch episode. I'm going to build you an MHX FP885. It's one of my absolute go-to flipping sticks. Perfect for jigs, perfect for Texas rigs. It's one of those rods that you can get away with pretty much fishing any type of cover. It's just strong enough to deal with some punching fish, and it's just light enough to be able to allow you to skip it into all those tight places that you want to be able to get your jigs into. So I'm going to build a couple because next year, looking at my tournament schedule, I've got a bunch of events that I really think might have some good flipping tournaments, whether it's Eufaula in Alabama, Eufaula in Oklahoma, could be the events down in Texas, Toledo Bend. If I fish the invitationals, you're looking at potentially Sam Rayburn. There's just a lot of events where I really feel like I could have a flipping stick in my hand, and the FP885 is one of my absolute go-tos. So much so that I've actually got a Signature Series kit at mudhole.com. So what you see me build here, you can build the exact same rod if you go to mudhole.com and purchase one of those Signature Series kits. You'll get everything from the exact components that I'm using all the way down to the dimensions. So I record all my dimensions here. So the exact layout of the rod, you'll build the same rod that I use on a daily basis. Even if you want to use the thread color, you can go ahead and use the same thread color. This is one of my favorite rods. I actually call it Vader, as in Darth Vader, because when I'm done with it, it's pretty much all gray and black, and it just is a pretty tough looking rod. I'll show you that at the end, but let's get ready to build this. The first thing here, I've got my FP885 MHX blank, nothing on it. So the first thing I like to do is lay it out against another one of my current FP885 so I can quickly mark the dimensions down. Or if you want to use the dimensions that are provided to you, you can do it that way as well. I just find it easier and faster to lay it right next to a rod that I've already completed. And yeah, we'll do that. We'll find the spine of the blank. Once we have all that laid out, we can move on to putting the handles on and putting the grips on, you know, everything that we need to have in place before we go ahead and start threading on the guides. Pretty simple process. Let me show you how it's done. I'm going to also show you a bunch of fish catches while I'm doing this so that you can see how well the FP885 works. All right, so let's get started with the dimensions. So I've got my FP885 blank in my CRB spine finder, apply a little bit of pressure to the tip of the rod, rotate at the base, and what I'm looking for is my blank to snap in place, which it just did right there. It's a pretty defined spine, so now I'm just going to mark on the top of the rod where the spine is so that I know where to put my guides. It'll just make the rod perform that much better. All right, so right now I'm just marking up where each of the guides are going to go, where my reel seat's going to go, everything in place so that I have this good to go. Pretty simple and straightforward, just using the dimensions that I've got here. I'm going to mark this up. While I'm doing that, you guys can watch me catch a nice bass. I'm going to get back to this, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, we have not been fishing long, and we've had several fish so far. I'm pretty impressed just from the standpoint of like, oh, that's a good one. Well, better at least. That's a nice one. That's a good one. I was just gonna say I haven't seen like huge size, but I mean that's another two, maybe a little over. The blank is now marked up with the measurements that we need to really lay out everything that we're going to attach to the rod. The next step is to take our wind grips, which are the grips that I prefer to use on my rods. These are going to be both a handle grip, which I've got right here, this guy right here, so that'll go underneath the reel seat, so that's where my palm will go. And then we've got what's called the butt grip, which goes on the butt of the rod. This is just going to be the little end cap that goes onto the end. Now, in both instances, the holes that come on it are too small. So we need to take our CRB reamer kit, which has a bunch of different size reamers. You attach it to your power drill. It also comes with a handle that you can attach it to it and do it by hand. But we're just gonna ream this down so that it fits nice, not super snug, but that it fits nicely right where it's supposed to go. So these two marks right here is gonna be where my butt grip is gonna, or my handle grip's gonna go. Butt grip just goes on the end. Then we can slide everything down from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start reaming these out, and you can watch another fish catch. Smallmouth. Nice one. That's a good one. Might be big fish of the day so far. Yeah, 2.5. Just under. Nice one. Nothing better than a good jig bite, and when you got a rod like the FP 885, it just makes it that much more fun. So we've got both our handle grip and our butt grip. They are reamed out, they're fitting perfectly where we need to. I slid the reel seat down, and I've got a winding check, which is just gonna snap into the top of the reel seat. That's gonna complete the whole bottom part of the rod. All we gotta do is use our 2-part glue, mix that up, spread it amongst the area. You can see I've got a good portion of each, roughly 50-50 is what you're looking for. So I'll stir that up until I get a good color, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just apply the glue into the areas where we've got our butt grip, our handle, our reel seat, and that will bring that all into place. So while I'm mixing this up, you got it, guys. Why don't you go watch me put Vader, the old MHX FP 885, to work and catch another fish. By the time you're done with a fish catch, I'll probably be ready to go to do the next part of the rod. Feels good. That's a good one. Whoa, that's a 3-pounder. Chunky too. Hog snatched. Right in the top, right where you want it. Nice, healthy fish. So the handle is all glued up. Now we got to go ahead and thread on our guides. So I'm going to start with the first double-footed guide. Generally what I do is I heat up the feet just a little bit. There's a bunch of different ways to get the guides to stay on the rod blank. Some people use rubber bands, some people use different types of tack. I just like to use a little bit of my rod tip glue, nothing special, and then I pop it right over the top of our marker so we know where we need to have that. And then at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and start my thread. So this is that storm cloud color. I'm going to start at the base of the foot. I'm going to wrap one way away from the rod guide, and then I go 3 times over the foot of the guide. Start it off, and then we're just going to start our wrapping process. So as I'm wrapping, I'm actually reducing the wraps that I had over the foot of the guide. Make sure that those are lined up. I can let pressure go off that. I'm just going to bump in a couple of my guides just to give it a nice snug wrap before I cut that tag end off. Okay, so I'm gonna take my tag end. I'm gonna cut that off because right now we've just wrapped it underneath. Get rid of the excess. Now I'm just gonna start the wrapping process. You're gonna go to the point where you're about, I don't know, I'll say 5 or 6 wraps from the end of the foot. And at that point, this guy's sliding a little bit on me. And then I'll put my, what's called a pull through underneath. This is just one that I've made, so I'm gonna put it right underneath. We're gonna wrap over that, and then that's gonna allow us to tuck our thread end underneath to get a nice clean wrap. So in this case, I've gone to the point where I need to. Now I'm gonna release the tension on the hand wrapper. I'm gonna cut my thread off. I like to use a pair of tweezers. I'm gonna grab that tag end I just had, pull it through the middle of my pull through, pull that tight. I'm gonna pull the pull through tight. So now that's holding my tag end, so I can let that go. I'm gonna cut it pretty much off right at the base. Apply a little bit of pressure with my thumb, pop the pull through under, and you can see the thread comes underneath. And you've got a nice wrap just like that. So now I can move to the other side and do the exact same thing. So I'm going to start at the base of the foot, do 1 wrap away, and then I'm going to do 3 wraps up and over. And then I can start my threading process. You just want to make sure your thread is continuously building towards the guide eye. So right there, I like to do 1 extra wrap over my tag end. Get rid of the extra. And then you're just going to continue the process of adding thread. Nice, snug, tight fit. I can bop that. That's our... Tuck that in with the burnishing tool. That's about where I'm going to go. I'm going to put my pull through back underneath. Now this way I'm going the opposite way because it's a double footed guide, so I'm going to pull that up right there, start wrapping, finish the wrap off, do right there, and I'm going to do the same thing. Apply some pressure, release the tension, cut it off, take my tweezers, go through the loop, pull the tag end through the loop. At that point now I can pull my tag end tight, or my pull through tight, cut off the little bit of tag, apply some pressure with my nail, pull the pull through. You can see we have a nice tucked under thread job, and we'll clean it up a little bit with our burnishing tool. And just like that, we've got our double foot guide on. So I'm going to finish the whole rod up, and then I'll come back and do the 2-part epoxy over the top. In the meantime, why don't you guys watch another fish catch? Ooh, that's a better one. Ooh. All right. They like those underhanging bushes. That is definitely, if you can find an underhanging bush on a little rockier bank, it seems like they will bite that bait. So we've got all of the rod now threaded up. It's time to apply our 2-part epoxy. This is just the Flex Coat high build formula. We've got both the hardener and the resin. Mix it at a very specific same quantity so that it hardens appropriately. And at this point, we're just going to apply that. A nice even coat. Nothing difficult about this except for needing a steady hand. Make sure your edges are nice and clean. I like to make sure I've definitely got a little bit of epoxy that meets up against the foot of the guide. This will spread nicely. And if you got to put 2 layers on, you can put 2 layers on. I generally like to go a little heavier, so I only have to do 1. And then I apply a little bit of heat, but I stay off to the side just to spread it out a little bit, knock out any potential air bubbles. And there you go. Now we'll finish up the other side and do the whole rest of the rod, and then we'll let that dry overnight, and we'll show you what we got. Well, we got it right here. Brand new Vader, ready for action. There's nothing quite like pulling a rod out of the drying rack. Just one of my favorite things to do. It's almost so nice you don't even want to take them fishing. But the reality is Vader, as I like to refer to this MHX FP 885, is a workhorse. If you guys like to flip and pitch around, I would definitely say this is the blank that you want to try. It's a 7.4. I'm going to say it's closer to a heavy action, but it's probably a heavy, medium heavy is how I would describe it. Great feel, great sensitivity, perfect for flipping and pitching. So if you want to build this, go to mudhole.com. You can check out my personal signature series FP 885 kit. You'll get everything, all the exact pieces and components that I use on the rod, down to the dimensions so that you can build this exact rod. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'm going to go put this one to work.